So this morning I told you that I was not going to be talking in great detail about what's going on in the front lines, but I would be having Greg Terry talk with us for, say, 10 minutes to just explain what's happening. He has a better command of this than I do. And while I talked about, hey, there's 1,600 casualties yesterday, 1,300 casualties today, and it's just like this is a very heavy month. We're probably going to be close to 40,000, almost to 40,000 Russian casualties. This will be the heaviest month of Russian casualties. So that's what they spent, but what they got in trade for those 40,000, almost 40,000 casualties, that's what we're going to talk about now. So, Greg, tell us what you understand from what's going on the front lines, because I just see Russians pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing in multiple places. So what's your view?
Well, first of all, thank you, Prof, as always, and greetings to all your community there. Yes, it is challenging. Russia has had a massive loss casualty rate over the last 30 days, even going back the last 45 days. But the reality is they are getting in exchange for that. And as we've talked about many times, the value of human life from the Kremlin viewpoint is much less than ours, of course. So it's a different topic. We start talking about reinforcements and Russian mobilization. But the reality is they have had a lot of casualties, but in exchange for that, they have had a lot of gains. Mm-hmm. South of Pokrovsk right now is critical. We are losing kilometers, not meters. Mm-hmm. And they are making some frontal assaults north of Kharkova into the region of Kharkivki, which they sound similar, but they're different. It's a little village, small town north of Kharkova that's on a higher ground that gives the Russians the ability to continue their assault on Kharkova. And remember, we talked about Ugledar and Kharkova being vitally important on the southern front there. Ugledar has fallen. Kharkova is under big assault. Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, the assault will continue. Russia has, and this is the information I got yesterday from my buddies in Ukraine, about 70,000 troops south of Pokrovsk right now. Even with the losses, they have been pushing more in. Additionally, over on the Kupiansk and Borova front, we've talked about in the past, they are continuing to stabilize that position there so that they can increase their artillery fires onto Kupiansk and Borova. So, yes, they've had a lot of loss, but they've also had some logistical gains that are important for Ukraine to be able to defend. And that's one of the reasons, we were talking yesterday that I really wanted to share. In fact, on my live stream tonight, I will be going in depth with some of the things that I'm going to share with you guys right now.
Tell us what time that is, and so you'll want to go to @GregTerryExperience, and at what time tonight?
9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, and he'll show you on the maps everything that he's talking about here. You're just getting a sense of what's going on, and he'll show you on the maps. So please make sure that you get to that tonight. Go ahead, keep going.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to base what I'm going to share with you now on three sources. One is an American. His name is Doug Livermore. He is the vice president of the Special Operations Association for the United States. That is a key. It's not just a think tank, but it's also a strategical initiative group that does analysis. They do fundraisers. They also have action on Capitol Hill with legislation. It's a large group. You can go to their website, Special Ops Association USA, and you can read about them to further validate the source. Additionally, I'm going to cite here two other sources, and these two guys are Ukrainian. And for people watching you in your channel around the world, they probably do not know these names, but if there are Ukrainians in here, you absolutely know these names. One is Sternyenko, and the other is Lashin. And these are two of the most accurate civilian analysts, I'm choosing my words wisely here, who absolutely tell the truth. Of course, they're pro-Ukraine. Of course, these two individuals actually are supplying the most FPV drones to the front lines than any other organization or private group on the planet Earth. These are legitimate sources, but they absolutely tell the truth. So the next few things I'm going to share with you, there is agreement from American sources and analysts. Of course, we've seen some of the same reports out of publications and analysts like Build, but I don't want to talk about those. These are good analysts here that I trust. And they all are saying we are entering the critical phase of the war, that pushing us towards 2025, This is mission critical now for the next 2 to 3 months. Once again, confirming Peter Pavel, the president of Czech Republic, almost 2 years ago now, telling us that the fall of 2024 would be key. So these guys have agreement on several things that must happen for Ukraine to regain the initiative in this war.
Mhm.
The first is international support for the war in Ukraine must strengthen. And specifically, we're not talking about money.
Mhm.
We are talking about supply lines and supply routes for Western weapons to get to the front, not just be talked about, not just be projected, not just be paid for. You know, you see the news, Germany coming with this support, Netherlands coming out with 400 million, billion, whatever it may be. I don't know. It's nonstop news we hear, Biden's presidential drawdown. But the fact is, it takes time for logistics to happen to get these supplies to the front. And all three of these sources are saying there's no time now to project out 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 weeks for deliveries. We need supplies now. Secondly, and we've already covered this a little bit, is the front lines must be stabilized. Right now, they are destabilized. It is not stable on the Pokrovsk-Mirnograd front. It is not stable on the Kharkov front. It is not stable on Toretsk. It is not stable on Chasiv Yar. It is not stable on Badarva and Kupiansk. Other places are stable. Zaporizhia being hit with air. Of course, Kharkiv under nonstop assault. But we're talking about frontline, zero-line battle positions here. These must be stabilized immediately. That once again points back to needing the supply and the logistics to get there, not just the promises.
Yeah. So we look at the number of Russian casualties and we think, yay, look at this, this is going bad for them. But it's not just that it's going badly for them. It's more that they're having those casualties because they are in this full court press right now. And I'm actually surprised because I thought in August, surely Pokrovsk would have fallen by, early October, late September. But they kind of didn't press forward to Pokrovsk. They pushed out to the right and to the left to, I think, take those roads that lead into Pokrovsk. And now they largely, and this is what I got from you from when we were talking about it, and you're showing me on the map the stable roads. So,
and you realize that is where they're pushing right now.
Yeah.
They're taking the 2 paved roads.
That's right.
We discussed this. I shared Russian media a few weeks ago. Not propagandists, just they're all propagandists, but a news channel talking about the paved roads, paved roads, and they were specifically talking about Kursk. But the reality is, the paved roads are key everywhere along the front as we enter into the winter. And I will tell you, old man winter, as you've talked about even a month ago, man, if it would just delay, well, Prof, it delayed. It's been warm. Yeah. And this has been a great opportunity for Ukraine to be reinforced and get logistics there and supply, but it's just not happened. So they are in a full court press. There have been a lot of casualties, but they continue to resupply. And they have, in fact, this is shared about top reasons. This segues perfectly. Top reasons for Ukraine, for the war being critical right now. Number one is manpower. They have a manpower advantage. They are willing to lose more soldiers. Their value of human life is not even on the radar with Ukraine.
And they also have barrier troops behind them, pushing them forward and saying, don't come back. You keep going forward or you're going to get it on the way back. So that's half the problem.
That is correct. And of course, Ukraine does not do that. I will tell you this. For your community, if you will go back to my Monday night live and go scrub forward, if you want to see what I'm going to share now, we must remember that Ukraine also has casualties and wounded. So it's not like 40,000 versus 0. It's hard many times to get an accurate number, and rightfully so, because Ukraine has to be sensitive with that. Is struggling with some other things we'll talk about in just a moment. But I shared some photos and video of our team, of which Prof. Gerdes, you and your community were partners, supplying sweaters to wounded soldiers. And if you just scrub through, forget all the rest of the video, just scrub to the last 5 minutes, your community can see some of the goodness happening. But you're going to see wounded Ukrainian soldiers
Yeah.
being helped. So it's just a reminder that Ukraine also has a cost in this with manpower. The second thing they said that must be adjusted and addressed is fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, we're talking about Kursk here. Kursk has been great. Kursk has shown the ability for Ukraine to strike and to wage war inside Russia. But at the same time, it has come at a cost. And on this point, it's the cost not so much of casualties, although there have been quite a few. It has been to the cost of fatigue because they've had to rotate some of their key groups in to support that effort, pulling them off of other places.
Mm-hmm.
And fatigue is starting to catch up with these soldiers. I remind you guys today that most Ukrainian soldiers on the front have been there 12 to 18 months, maybe a week off here or a week off there. They have not been rotated out. And this points to that similar conversation of manpower, and then you go to fatigue. One of the things that is affecting Ukraine's ability to completely stabilize the situation and why they're calling it criticals, number 3, is to finally get mobilization fixed. And I know we keep talking about it. Yes, they have the app. Yes, they have the postal system. Yes, they're addressing TCC members that have ripped people off the street. They're fixing all of that. But the reality is, all of these analysts are saying the mobilization age must be dropped to a minimum of 22.
Yeah.
21 is preferable, but 22. I can tell you right now, and I won't give names here, but 4 of our team members, I was speaking with our partner Zhenya today, just a little while ago, 4 of our team members were just mobilized, and now we've lost that. And these were some really important parts of our team for delivering aid.
Yeah.
They're not available to us anymore. So that once again, that showed me, because mobilization knows that these guys are registered with our nonprofit and working like crazy for the war effort, 24/7, literally. They're now mobilized. So
it's critical.
Everyone agreeing that age must drop.
Okay.
4th.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead, because I was just going to say, so if you want to see the rest of this, because I'm sensitive to the fact that you're actually on vacation on a nature walk, and I'm not trying to take up too much of your time. So go ahead.
Well, let me just give the highlights then for they not only list, and all of these analysts agreeing, what the issues are, but they also provide solutions how to solve it. Okay. And I know as a professor that probably interests you. You hear the problem? Well, let's solve the problem. Here's what they say. Lower the mobilization age. Okay. It has to happen. Number 2, Western weapons must be allowed to strike Russian targets.
Absolutely.
Not developed Ukrainian weapons. And why? Because they are all in agreement that the Putin and the Kremlin must be shocked that actually Western weapons are permitted.
So that's a good point. Now we'll know so the election in the United States is next Tuesday, right? 1 week from today. So we will know in 8 days, 9 days maybe, whether they're not allowing that because of the election or whether they're actually deterred by Putin. We'll know that in about a week.
We will absolutely know that. And that's why even on my channel, I'm telling everybody, be patient. Be patient. Let's just wait and see. Let's don't throw judgments. Let's just wait and see. Okay. So the mobilization lowering, the ability to use Western weapons on Russian targets for the shock value, not for the destruction value, for the shock power value to Putin. Thirdly, adjust training. It must be improved, because even though we're scrambling to get Ukrainian troops to the front, our training is not sufficient. Even if it's to our cost, add 2 more weeks to the training. It'll save their lives. Number 4, economics. Number 4 or 5, economics. And this is really interesting. These 3, and I agree with them, don't worry about the sanctions on Russia. They are suggesting that sanctions at a very strong arm level come against China and India. For economically supporting the Russian war machine.
And China doesn't want to lose the West, which is 60% of its trade, in order to keep 2% of trade with Russia. Go
after the 2 largest trade partners with Russia right now. Sanction those guys. Hit Putin's pocketbook through other nations, not Putin's pocketbook by sanctioning Russia, because we already have learned that doesn't really work too effectively.
Yeah.
And the fifth one and final one, NATO must continue to build up troops on the eastern flank and weapons
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
to pressure what. So they agree, and I agree with them spending so much time in Ukraine. There must be so much pressure coming on Vladimir Putin, and it can't just be in Chasiv Yar and Kursk and
Yeah. Because right now his lesson is I'm winning. They're not going to do anything. I'm going to just keep pressing. It doesn't matter how much I spend here. They're not going to do anything. I could bomb one of these NATO countries and they'd still be like, you know what? Strong words, right?
Correct.
So he's got to be put on notice. Okay.
That's the
Greg,
plan. Yeah.
thank you so much for the update. I'm genuinely sensitive to your time here while you're on vacation. But he will be doing this 9:00 at Greg Terry Experience tonight. So please make sure that you see this so that you can see what's happening on the battlefield, everything explained in full detail. And thank you so much for your time. Any last words?
No, just thank you. Thank you to your community. Thank you for everyone that, as you would always say, be the kind of person that cares about Ukraine. And that message is now expanding. Our world is in it's very interesting over the next few weeks. And as you stated, and I completely agree, come 2, 3, 4, 5, let's just say a week after the American election, we're going to really know how things are
what they really believe about this.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll know whether Biden's really solid or whether Biden is just deterred by Putin. Yep, absolutely.
We will see.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you.
Check Greg out at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's all that we have, folks. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam Slava.